Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Abbey Stadium. Norwich City's pre-season continued here tonight with a clash against Cambridge United. Yes, it is hot. Yes, I'm probably sweating and a bit of a red-hot, sweaty mess. But we'll persist. We'll try not to make this too long. Norwich City have won here tonight by 3-1. Dean Smith, who is currently behind me, not literally, but down there, described this as a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance, and I would be inclined to agree. So the first half was average City, the second half was Norwich City. Again, I would be inclined to agree, and he felt that some of his players were using the extreme heat, and it has been extreme. I think it was 37 when we walked in to the ground. It's certainly still bubbling around that 30 degree mark, although it has cooled down a little bit. Actually, it's funny enough, we came down to the side of the pitch to speak to Dean Smith and Jakob Sørensen after the game. It's actually significantly cooler down there than it was in the stand watching this. But yeah, I mean, if you want the absurdity of pre-season, you can look at the first half that Norwich City played here today, combined with probably the entirety of their performance against Marseille, where they performed well as a team. They were efficient. They were fluid. They looked like they had a game plan and executed that very well. And then you sort of contrast that with the first half of this performance against Cambridge United, who were very good in the first half, very well coached side under Mark Bonner, who obviously have gained promotion to League One, survived last year, and probably looking to kick on and do something a little bit significant in terms of consolidation in the division and looking upwards rather than over their shoulder. And that was kind of displayed in that first half. It's a team with a lot of energy, a lot of technical ability as well, but also can mix it up. Norwich found it quite difficult to cope with what they did and their various patterns of play. They looked quite lethargic. It was quite a heavy Norwich City performance. It looked like, although Dean Smith said afterwards, they were due to train before this game. He elected to cancel that and just sort of push his team straight into the pre-match side of things because of the heat that obviously the UK has experienced today, particularly in this region, particularly in Norfolk as well. It's been a very difficult day and a very interesting day as well. There's a slight breeze coming in now, so it has cooled down a little bit, and hopefully it breaks up with a little bit of a thunderstorm. But I'll stop the weather forecast and go back to the football. Michael McGovern was really the only Norwich City performer of note. I thought Dimitris Giannoulis had a couple of good passages and a couple of good touches from an attacking perspective. There were a couple of probing passes and decent crosses that someone didn't quite get on the end of, but the idea behind it was really positive. So he was another one that I'd pick out. But Michael McGovern made 3 excellent saves, and given kind of all the debate that's rumbled on all summer about which goalkeeper Norwich City would start the season with, this was a reminder actually that they have a very capable third choice goalkeeper in the event, of course, and we hope it obviously doesn't happen that Tim Krul or Angus Gunn was to be injured at some stage, or of course, as maybe more likely is the case, Tim Krul heads to the World Cup with the Netherlands in November, and then of course Michael McGovern would then step into the deputy shoes and who knows, maybe even get a game here and there, the FA Cup, that kind of thing. And at 36 years of age, he's still going, he's still producing cat-like stops, cat reflex-like stops. So it was some brilliant saves, both the first half and the second half, to deny Cambridge from adding a second. And probably if they'd have got that second, you probably felt the game would have gone away from them a little bit. Norwich lined up in a it looked like a 4-4-2. It actually became a 4-2-4. And the wingers were very progressive, very high up. That 4 was quite interchangeable. We saw at the time sometimes Adamida coming to the right and John Robin pushed into that position. Hernandez and Pukki did likewise at times and swapped over. But in terms of creativity and real chances, Teemu Pukki had a shot, Adamida glanced a header. And that was probably about it, really, in terms of their first half opportunities. They didn't create a whole host of chances. It was a very heavy performance, one that was a lot about kind of testing how they were off the ball. Their pressing wasn't quite at it, and it just lacked a little bit of energy. And that's probably expected given, A, the amount of travel they have, the immense heat, although it's the same for both sides. And Cambridge were very good in that first half, although admittedly they haven't travelled to Germany and France in the last week. And there was some interesting dynamics in that first half, and it goes to show exactly why you cannot read too much. See you later, Dan. Exactly why you cannot read too much into this stage of any season, and pre-season is such a difficult thing to draw hard and fast conclusions by, because there are so many mixed results and players are dipped in and dipped out. The momentum of games gets ruined when both teams makes 8 substitutions on the hour mark, and so it makes games very difficult to come and talk about. And actually, it felt to me, actually, a lot of what I saw in the first half was quite similar to what I saw at Kings Lynn, and that came a few days after a foreign trip, and when Norwich looked a little bit lethargic, but obviously still had enough quality to go and score 2 goals and win that game. And Actually, you contrast that with the second half. Norwich were much more energetic. They made changes at the break. Jordan Hugill came on. Who else came on? Andrew Mbamidele came on. Interestingly, took the armband as well. So there was a few changes at the break, and Norwich just lifted their level a little bit. And Dean Smith, interestingly, didn't head into the dressing room. He stayed out here and was kind of working on positional stuff with Andrew Mbamidele. But it was just an improved, enhanced, more rounded, more polished performance from Norwich City. They persisted with kind of that 4-2-4 for the first stage. It then kind of switched into a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 that kind of interchanged when they were in and out of possession, with Campbell when he came on and Sonani kind of the 2-8s, but Campbell would push himself on. And McLean occupied kind of that sitting role. So that was interesting as well. We're kind of seeing different tactical ideas at this stage as we've kind of entered kind of the footballing phase of pre-season, if you like. We kind of concluded the fitness period, the first half of it, after that German break. We're now very much into the football side and assessing these players, and they're of course staking their claim for Dean Smith's team against Cardiff in just over a week's time now. And what we'll get on Saturday is 2 games back to back, where Dean Smith will give 90 minutes to 2 effectively different 11s, which is a completely crazy concept and just shows the bloated nature of Norwich City's squad. But equally, that will be a really worthwhile exercise, because very few Norwich City players have endured that 90 minutes. And at this stage of pre-season, with a squad that was perhaps normal sized, there would be a lot more players who would have played a lot more minutes. And what we saw tonight actually was probably a lot of players on the fringes who haven't had as many minutes as some, probably being elevated and being pushed into those positions and given that exposure to football that they need ahead of the season. On El Hernandez, Pierre Malou. We can list a few others in that. In terms of impressive, Liam Gibbs grabbed a goal. I thought he was very bright again when he came on. There's always a willingness, and he's a very good technician, very capable footballer, capable of receiving it on the half term and instantly looking to pass forward. Just keeps things ticking over, and never does anything kind of spectacular or plays 40-yard raking pass, but actually just plays penetrative, attacking passes that break shapes, break lines, and get Norwich on the attack and on the move pretty quickly. And that speed of passing is often really crucial to breaking what was at times a low block tonight. And he actually ended the game as a right back, but it feels increasingly like if it's not going to be Norwich City this year, it probably does need to be an EFL loan, because this momentum that he's developed and is showing over pre-season, there's a real player there with a lot of potential, and I'm probably liking him more every time I see him play football. Josh Sargent was very good energy. There was one chance at the end that he completely scuffed, although he kind of put it in Jordan Hugill's path. So it was either the worst miss or the best pass of the night, and you can watch the replay and be the judge of that. But he was very energetic and lively, and looks to have come back from injury with a bit of a spring in his step. Just feels like he needs a goal. It's that last action, that last moment with him that probably needs to be a little bit more polished. Onel Hernandez recorded another assist. It was a good night for him. Milo Rashica set up a goal when he came on as well. So there are a lot of players beginning now to increase their workload and just give Dean Smith a bit more of a headache as we build up to Cardiff. And that is probably what he would want at this stage of pre-season. And no player is probably doing that more than Jordan Hugill at the moment. This is his second successive brace, his 6th goal of pre-season. I won't spoil it too much, but we've got a column from Chris Sutton in the morning on Jordan Hugill, which makes some very interesting points. And that was kind of backed up by what we saw on the pitch tonight. An incredibly fit player. He'd come back, and I think he was posting kind of pictures from his peloton and various bits over the summer break, but just seems to have come back really re-energized. Obviously doesn't have the baggage of what happened last season kind of weighing him down. I actually felt the second half of last season at Cardiff was a real confidence booster for him, and actually in a strange way Norwich are probably profiting from that a little bit more than Cardiff did. And what's pleasing about him is he gets cast in this kind of role as being a bit old-fashioned. Elbows are always up here, wants to swing, wants to engage physically. But they were 2 really adept finishes tonight, and 2 really well-taken goals. The first one he has a lot of time to think about, and it's that cliched kind of one where if you're given time, you can kind of fluff it up. He just rolled it into the back of the net really nicely, sat the keeper down. Excellent finish. The second one cut inside, or sort of chinked inside the defender and slotted with his right foot just underneath the goalkeeper. 2 excellent finishes, but his all-round game is good. He's pressing well. He's linking the play well. There was one moment in the second half where him and Sargent kind of made a similar run where Hugill ran across and in behind the centre-back and wanted to knock it down for Sargent to then strike, but both of them kind of moved in that same space. So it goes to show the rustiness of it. In terms of other strikers, Adam Ida, we've got 45 minutes tonight and looked really physically sort of imposing, was quite strong on the ball. Still some rust there, particularly in kind of the final third when chances did come his way. There was one moment, there was a horrendous pass from Sam Smith, I think it was, that he went to take down on his chest. And if he'd have kind of taken it and guided it forwards, he'd have been clean through on goal. But instead, probably, again, showing the rustiness, showing where we are in pre-season, it kind of bounced off his shoulder and ended up behind him. And Norwich then did fashion a chance, and Timo Pukki ended up kind of hitting a really vicious shot towards goal. But if he'd just taken the first one, I think the offside flag went up anyway. But if he'd have taken the first one, he'd had an opportunity one-on-one with the goalkeeper then, and could have possibly grabbed himself a goal. So, yeah, a much improved second half performance from Norwich City. Not that we can read too much of it into this stage. And now we all head up to Scotland, and we're going to be there. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. 2 games in 2 days, starting with Celtic on Saturday at Celtic Park. 2 separate 11s. Feels to me, and this is just a theory, and I'm sure Dean Smith would probably argue against it, but it feels to me if you're starting against Celtic, you've probably got a very good chance of playing against Cardiff the week after. It's particularly going to be interesting around some key positions. I think we're probably looking at goalkeeper in particular, central midfield as well, particularly given Isaac Hayden and Gabriel Sara are both out still, both injured, although Dean Smith revealed after the game that Gabriel Sara is set to join training on Monday. Probably would, given the lack of pre-season, be a bit too soon for Cardiff. Whether he could come back for that EFL Cup game against Birmingham later in August is probably more of a possibility. I think until then, we're maybe going to see flashes and minutes off the bench as they look to kind of gradually introduce him, not just to obviously this season and ramp up his fitness, but also to English football and the Championship and the intensity of it, which is so much more rigorous and aggressive than the Brazilian league is. So that's going to be a challenge, and there is going to be an adaptation period naturally in that. But his running statistics, as Dean Smith outlined, I think he described them as crazy. They probably will stand him in some good stead. Some more absences this evening. Christoph Zimmermann and Christos Solis, both close to finalising moves away from Norwich City. Dean Smith confirmed after the game. We reported this morning that it looked like Christoph Zimmermann is poised to leave. Looks like it's going to be Darmstadt in the Bundesliga too. That's a very good move for him if it goes through. Christos Solis, we reported way back in May that Club Brugge have had an interest. The loan element is interesting. Dean Smith spoke about how he still feels Solis has a lot of potential to fulfil. Probably needs a bit more game time than Norwich City are going to afford him this season. So a loan is probably the natural step from that. Sam Byram wasn't here tonight and Ben Gibson wasn't here tonight. And they're both strains. I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anyone else, but I think I'm all good. There we go. Right. I'm going to go get back in the aircon car because I need it because I'm sweating buckets. It's not nice. Hopefully the weather is significantly calmer by the time we get to Glasgow on Saturday. Really looking forward to that trip. You, of course, will be able to come along with us. Pinken.com and the Pinken Plus app. You can take out a trial if you haven't done so already. Plenty of exclusive content coming on there, not least Chris Sutton's column, as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow morning, but also plenty of coverage as we will head up to Scotland. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you keep cool this evening, and we'll see you again